We got that good spirit juice in the house. This is the Real Life Podcast. We're here. Special guest in the house. We got Stephen and Venetia, man. We're going to give a little bit of testimony about what God has done in her life. And I'm excited. This is ASAP Preach, John 3:16. In case you didn't know. I hope y'all enjoyed the last podcast with Pastor Stearns. That was pretty crazy. It was about 11:30 at night. But the way I see it, if we were partying till 1, 2 in the morning for the devil, why not podcast in the middle of the night for the Lord? Why not, right? Might as well. Are you nervous?
Yes.
She's nervous. All right. Amen. Yes. So here we are. Forgive me if my head is a little shiny. I'm hot. I've been trying to get this thing done since this morning. Okay, so we have in the house Stephen and Venetia. Today we're going to have Venetia's testimony. I'm actually kind of excited to hear it. I've never heard it before. The thing that makes testimonies on the Real Light so I guess different from 180s. 180s, you got about 3 seconds, right? And here you got 45 minutes. So you can actually go in depth in a lot of the things that you were thinking or going through whenever you were younger or growing up. I know there's a lot of church people that have, served God early on, grew up in church. They end up running into problems when they get older. And I think that that's normal. Of course, you're going to run into issues. When you're walking into faith, you're going to run into all kinds of stuff. And if you don't know how to combat, you're going to get into some issues. But I'm very excited to have you on, Venetia. Man, I know we've been talking about it for a while. Yeah. But I've been constructing this thing, trying to get everything in here back in order, and finally back in order, and now we're back in. So let's get started, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What's going on, man?
Like currently?
Oh, no, just in general.
Oh.
Like, if you were to give your testimony to a bunch of folks, like, where are you from? Where did you grow up? What was it like?
So, well, I was born in Arizona. My parents were over there in Phoenix. They were pastoring. They're pioneering in Phoenix. I was born, I'm wrong. I was born in Chandler when they were still in Chandler. And maybe like a year later, they went and started pioneering in Phoenix. So that's where I'm from. I'm from Arizona. We didn't live there for too long until we moved to Virginia to take over a church over there. Stayed there for 2 to 4 years. I think it was 4 years.
Wow.
4 years, and then we moved back to Arizona for another 4 years, actually, until we moved here to Killeen to take over the Potter's house here. Okay. So, and now, I had moved away, to Florida when I got married, but we've been here for 12 years?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about myself. I would say my testimony, it kind of starts maybe when we moved here. I was getting to middle school age where, you're starting to understand things more. You're starting to be exposed to a little bit more than what you're exposed to in maybe elementary school. And we were homeschooled when we were in Arizona, but when we moved here in like the middle of the school year. So my mom went ahead and just threw us into public school. I was trying to make friends, trying to fit in because I already felt like, I started in the middle of the school year. Everyone already has their routine. Everyone already has their friend group. So, and there was some, kids that knew me from church. I also went to school, and I wanted to be like, well, I'm cool like them, So I started, just kind of having your little boyfriends, having your little crushes, maybe saying a few little cuss words here and there. Just whatever you can do that's not too much, but to fit in and to feel good about yourself. So I started doing that. But then, sorry, I'm getting congested. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It started playing out into my my attitude. Like, then I started having the same attitude as the kids out there, like bad attitudes towards your parents, towards people. And I thought I could live the double life. Like, okay, at school, I'm going to have this attitude, be rebellious and be this person at school. But then at home, I'm going to clean my act up and act like I'm saved. No, I'm still saved. I'm still living right. But, sin will find you out. It always does. So sure enough, I was, some people had told my parents, like, oh, Venetia's doing this at school, or even behind your back at church. And so they, I got in trouble, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But it was more out of, like, being embarrassed. I wasn't really repentful. What is the word? Remorseful? Yeah, repentive. Yeah. So I wasn't really repentive, because I was sinning. I was more like, oh, no, I just got caught. Like, oh, no. Mm-hmm. So I never really gave my life to Jesus, actually, at any point, actually, up until this point of life. Like, I went to the altar, like, oh, God, forgive me, please. More for the show, though. It wasn't like a true from my heart. So then time goes on. I get pulled out of public school in 8th grade, I think, put into homeschooling, and you would think that would solve all the problems, right? Well, no, it didn't for me, because I still had electronics. I started talking to boys behind my mom's back again. Just because I think when you grow up a church kid, and mostly even like a pastor's kid, you're expected to be perfect. You're expected to have it all together. You're expected to know it all. And that's a really hard way to live, especially since I was young, like putting a lot of pressure on you. So then it's like you're expected to know everything, but you don't. And so when you don't know everything, then it makes you feel like, oh, I have to hide myself, and I'm just going to try to fit in because I don't know everything. Right. But so I think like just people expecting a lot out of me, and me not really wanting to live the Christian life yet. And my parents, like, really, because they wanted us to be the examples. Like, we're examples, we're pastors' kids. And so I felt like, it was wrong of me, but I feel like, oh, no, all these people are wanting me to be perfect. Well, I don't want to be perfect. I want to live my life. I want to do what I want to do. It doesn't matter what people think, which it's true. It doesn't matter what people think, but I was using it for the wrong, reasons. So, where was I going? Okay, so high school, I was still messing around, being dumb, just flirting with guys on social media, that I had hid from my parents. And so, but like I said, sin always finds you out. And so I got caught again. My dad ended up finding my electronic and like seeing like all the different messages. And so I got in trouble. And I really thought, okay, no, this time I'm really going to be right. I'm going to stay saved. And I did pretty well. I actually did really good. I even started like my own vlog about my testimony, for church kids. And
you said a vlog?
A blog, yeah.
A blog, what is that?
Like instead of videos, I just like would write things, like write stories, different blogs. Okay. So I even started that, and like it was going really well. But then I went to college. Like I went to college in person, and started getting attention from guys that they're older now. I'm older, and there's different things going on, So I gave into that, and I gave into sin, and I thought I could also hide it again. So I was acting saved, and then I actually started talking to, talking to a guy from the fellowship, and like I thought, this will help keep me saved, and not needing attention from other people. And so then that ended up going south. Like he ended up breaking up with me, and I completely lost. I thought that was it. And then so I was doing good for those next few months, because I was like, man, like, God, I really need you, because you always try to seek God out in the times that you're like heartbroken or right. So actually the next few months I ended up meeting Steven. They came down for a band. Their band came down like on an impact team. And so we ended up kind of like hitting it off, and we started just talking. I don't think we dated yet. No. So tell me if I'm going too
Well, I want to ask you a few questions about school, right? Because I think this is a trap a lot of the times when church kids go to school. Mm-hmm. I actually wrote a song that I haven't even dropped yet. I haven't even done anything with it yet. But it's a song about how church kids are, in particular, pastors' kids, right? Like Ollie's kids and course, Pastor Rosario, you guys. I got a little glimpse on what it is to just by watching and paying, because I watch everything. I just can't help it, man. I'm always like, my wife just drives my wife crazy, but there's a reason why I do it. But I paid attention, and it's funny how we can critique the people that we feel should be at the capacity that we feel like they should be in, for instance, church kids. You guys, man, especially being Pastor Rosario's kids, right? Because I admire Pastor Rosario a lot. I've broken his heart a lot, more than I would like to say. And when you mention things like you tried to hide it and you tried to hide it, and I see a pattern how school and even college now, we're setting traps for you, especially when everybody how can I put this correctly? So everybody has a desire to want to do something and have a purpose and fit in somewhere. Mm-hmm. So whenever you do the church life and you know that you're struggling there, because you said that you were being expected to know it all and to have it all figured out and walk it out. But that's not the case growing up, right? Like, you're trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things that are confusing and they're hard, like sin. You know what I mean? That's hard. When you're growing up and you're starting to get in that age, that teenage age, man, where you just want to do stuff, that's when it starts getting really hard. And school provided ways for you to encounter these sins in different ways, like curiosity, right? You're like, man, I kind of want to know, or I kind of want to experience that, because you see these kids over here and they're kissing and they're doing whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, man, I want that because I can't have that. That's being taken from me, and I can't experience it because it's not allowed. But school gave you that access because your parents are not there, right? So explain that a little more, like all the kids that are like in schools, like right now, the kids that go to school, I noticed that a lot of them are struggling. They come to church and they're busted up pretty bad, right? And I'm like, dang, is it even worth sending them to school? Like, what were some of the things that were crossing your mind at the time, like in school, that made you fall into these traps? Like,
I guess, like what you said, curiosity, really, and then like what do you mean? Like, what were people saying, or
right? Like, if you were talking to a kid that's going to high school, they go to church, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, man, it's hard, yeah, right? Yeah. And they were to describe some of the things that you were going through as a teen in school. Like, how would you talk to them to help them understand based on your experience?
Just tell them now, like, you might face not persecution, people making fun of you in school. People, oh, she's the goody two shoes. Oh, they're the church people. You might face that now, but just think, like, they're broken inside. At home, they don't have a good life like you have at home. Their parents probably don't love them as much as your parents love you, or are taking good care of them, like your parents are taking good care of you. And they're doing that because sometimes they're jealous. Sometimes they're they wish that they had that life that you had. They wish that their parents would take them to church, that their parents would have family days, would introduce them to Jesus Christ. But because they don't have that, they're trying to make fun of you to make themselves feel better.
So you mentioned how they take you out of school when you were 8. They put you back in school?
8th grade.
You went back?
No. After 8th grade, I didn't go back to school. I graduated college or high school, being homeschooled.
And then you went to college.
And then I went to college.
Okay.
Yeah. Right after graduating, I went to college the next semester.
So in the midst of you going through what you were going through, like your dad finding the stuff on your phone, and you're getting caught up in sin, mm-hmm. Did that affect? Because you have younger sisters as well, right? Mm-hmm. And I've learned through my own personal experience, when I make a mistake, everybody else around me is affected, and big time, right? And it's crazy the way that it works, because you said that you went to college and you said, okay, maybe I can hide it again. And it's really easy to do that. And especially when you have a strong desire for something, you'll do your best to, go to church and put on the smile and everything's good. But when you leave, it's like, okay, now I can go do what I do. And it's like, it's one of the hardest things to explain when it comes down to, giving testimonies and things like that. it's heartbreaking how there's so much things pulling us away from God, right? And I sense that when you were, giving your testimony even now, man, that there was like this strong pull pulling you away, like trying to get you to go back to the thing. And you mentioned that, well, you started meeting a guy from the fellowship that didn't work out. So did you, after that breakup or whatever, right? How were you feeling at the time? Did you fall into a depression, and what took place after that?
Slightly, like a slight depression, because I was like, okay, I'm finally doing it right. I'm not going behind my dad's back. I'm not dating a guy behind my dad's. We're talking to a guy that my dad approved of, and so, and it just, what was the question again?
So
my brain went like, pew.
So after the whole ordeal with the guy in the fellowship, did you fall into a depression? How did that affect your future decisions after that?
Yeah, so it was like a slightly depression, because you thought everything was gonna go good, and this one, like, okay, it's for the right reasons. It's God, approved, and so it was hard afterwards, because I think we had talked for a while, and we were friends before, so it was kind of like more like just than a breakup. It was like a friendship, like, ended, and so it was like a small depression, actually, but I also saw it as, okay, this is maybe God's trying to draw me closer to Him for some reason. Mm-hmm. So I went through it pretty well, even after I was done crying and everything. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, and then you mentioned that stud over there, right? So okay, all that happened, right? So you grew up with a bunch of sisters, mm-hmm. right? You have how many older sisters than you?
One.
You have one older sister and then three younger.
Two.
Two younger. Okay,
younger,
cool.
Yeah.
I just want to make myself clear. Right? So growing up with an older sister, like, did you ever feel like you were competing, or was that ever an issue? Did you guys get along well?
Oh, yeah, we got along very well. Me and her, we were best friends. We still are best friends. And at the time, she was going through her own backslidden choices too, so it was kind of like we were sitting together, so like we were in it
looking
together.
Out for one another.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that, kids. No, stop. Just do the right thing.
So that's what we were kind of in it together. So at times we would kind of catch each other like, oh man, that's a little too far, right. But at the same time we were both sinning. So, but you mentioned like it affecting my younger sisters even too, but it never really did, because we always kind of hid it from them. Even when we would get in trouble, my parents never told them, because they didn't want it to affect them in a bad way. They didn't want to be exposed to just certain things. So they never really knew that we had backslidden that bad until I was in college. And then,
I'm actually, just to kind of add on to it, watching Pastor Rosario, because I was kind of around, right, when all that was going on or whatever. And I actually see the difference on how Pastor's approaching, right? Mm-hmm. His approach to Bertie and Sailor, right? Mm-hmm. And it's different. And I've learned too, like, man, don't get it twisted. I was a very strict dude, right? Like, where you at? Give me your number. I don't know. Because I know every little window of opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? They'll take and they'll run with it. That's the way that I did it. And because after I repented and got right, I know all the tricks and the schemes, and I'm like, okay, I'm over here at Walmart. Boom, I got Wi-Fi. Bam, let's do it. Right? Mm-hmm. Let me get on my app. Let me roll out. I know about all that stuff. So I'm like, but after Gabby and Nana, you know what I mean? And thank God, God helped me with Gabby. But nonetheless, I can see the difference on how his approach to the younger two.
Because there's still a balance of giving the kid trust, even though they give them room to maybe make mistakes. Don't just expect them to make mistakes.
Oh, that's so hard, man.
It is hard, but I think, and nothing against my parents, like they were trying their best to keep us out of trouble, and this is the only way that they knew how, because my dad was raised Christian, but he, it was he only had a mom, so this is what they saw growing up or coming to church, in our fellowship, like keep your kids close by to you, because they knew any little window that they had, you could slip right through and you can, sin. So they were trying their best, and it's not, they didn't know that it was hard for a church kid, to be expected to be perfect. Right. So now, like you said, you see it different with my sisters. They trust them, like, okay, we're going to trust you, but if you do fall, if you do have, then that's when the trust is going to start being pulled back. So it's just trusting the kid and giving them room, giving a little bit of room to maybe if they do make a mistake, then you can, bring them in a little bit more. But yeah.
So I'm
not saying give them all the freedom in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, at least send them with people that they have a fighting chance with, right? Yeah. Don't just, hey, go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, still watch out who your kids are around, what devices they're on, what apps they're on. Don't give them just a device and expect them to be perfect, because kids are kids. Sin nature is in everyone.
Oh, that's scary. Anyway, so let's talk about that stud over there. When was the first time you met her? Tell us about that. When was the first time you ever laid eyes on that man over there?
I think was it in 2018 or 2017? Their church came down and 19. Did an impact. Was it 19? No, it was 18 because we got married in 2019. Oh, yeah. So it was 2018 in June, July, I believe. June or July, their church came down and did an impact team for us, and he was part of a band, and they were performing at the concert, and it was after that breakup, so I was like, maybe, another one. Like, I was just ready to, maybe explore options, but the Christian way. Right, so I had saw him singing on stage, and I was like, he's pretty cute, I was like, I don't see a ring, so maybe. So I had met one of the girls that came down from his church with him, or with them, and I asked her, I was like, hey, is there any single guys in the group? And she mentioned him, and I was like, yeah. That one. And so I was like, he's not talking to nobody, right? And she said, no. So we were set up on a lunch date. The next day, we were set up to sit right in front of each other. And so it was kind of,
Taco Bell.
Get out there, Taco Bell on Rancier. You made it happen. Shout out to you, Taco Bell on Rancier.
It was all you. I have a picture. I have to send you that picture.
She said it was all you.
So he barely ate.
Yeah, send me that picture because I'll put it up.
Okay.
I normally eat like at least 6 items at Taco Bell.
He didn't eat.
I ate like one taco the whole time.
Right, you were like, wow.
I didn't want to eat in front of her. I'm like, no, you don't want to see that.
I don't want to embarrass myself.
I get down when I eat. I can't do it.
That brother said, I don't want to embarrass myself. That's cool.
So that's where we met.
Okay.
We talked to each other for a little bit during lunch, and then went our separate ways. But Chandler Conference was going to be in the next few weeks. It was still in August at the time. Okay. So I kind of kept in communication not with him, but like I talked to the girl that went to his church, and she kind of like would give us little updates about him, Right. And so it was nothing serious at the time. And then I kind of mentioned to my dad, like, yeah, there's a guy I kind of liked over there, and he was just, my dad. He's like, no, not again. No.
So what church?
Yeah.
Okay, that's Pastor such and such. I'll get back with you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no, that's legit. Exactly how it goes.
Oh, I know. Trust me. I know Pastor very well. We talk a lot.
Yeah. Conference, we started talking a little bit more, and he asked my dad, if he could actually like officially talk to me, like in the fellowship.
So not even
hold on one minute. Look here. If you want somebody in church, let me give you a word of advice. Go talk to dad. Mm-hmm. Don't go talk to her. You're in violation. I'm telling you, dad's gonna stiff arm you, bro. Go to dad. Like if somebody comes to me from my daughter, I'm probably going to stiff arm him at first just to give him a hard time. But then I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he went to dad. Just a word of advice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So he asked my dad if we could talk, exchange numbers. Well, at the time I didn't have a phone. Mm-hmm. So we kept in touch through my mom's phone. So, and it kept, us had accountable. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we talked for a while, and it was going really good. And then the end of that year into the next year is when I really backslid. When I one morning, I decided like that's enough. I was done fighting conviction, especially living under my parents' roof. And at the same time, I didn't want to keep, because I saw the weight of that my sin had on my parents. Even though they didn't know everything I was doing, they were still, they have discernment. They have, they can tell when things are going on, and it was eating them alive. And I could see it because my mom's health, was attacking her health. And so I was like, you know what, that's it. I don't want to live right. I don't want to, keep doing this to my parents. I'm moving out. So I got up one morning, and I was actually at church, and I had been in contact with a few friends that were encouraging it too. And I already had like a place like, oh, if you ever need to move out, you can move to my house, you know. So I left church that day and I packed my room up and I left. I was gone. And so, wow, I've never like talked about my testimony. So, yeah, my dad was out of town. Everything happens when my dad's out of town. Everything bad, you know, when the cat's away, the mice play. So, my mom calls like freaking out, like, where are you? Why did you leave? You know, she later on like told me like, you know, she went into my room and she like almost passed out. Like it was really rough on her. And, that's when my sisters really saw like the effect, you know, what I was doing. And, anyways, I just ignored it for the first, you know, I was like, no, I'm done. Like, I don't want to live for God. You know, you guys expect me to be perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. I want to live my life. And so we were still talking, and I actually had to tell him, like, you know, I moved down to my parents' house. I'm not living right. I don't know exactly what I told him, but I just don't want to talk. I don't want to bring you down with me, you know. That's what I said. And so we cut it off there, and I went and lived my sinful life. You know, I was smoking weed, I was drinking, I was, you know, sleeping around and going to clubs. You know, even though I wasn't 21, you still can get into the clubs and sneak drinks, you know. And so I was living that life that I thought was the high life, the good life. I thought it was a fun and glamorous, but it wasn't, you know, because after each night, no matter if I was drinking or not, but you go home and you're by yourself. You don't have God's covering anymore. You don't have your dad's or your parents' covering anymore. You're left exposed to the devil. His thoughts, you know, he infiltrates your thoughts. He attacks your mind, and even your body. Like, I started getting sick a lot. Like, I was sick almost every day, it felt like. But you know, you always try to hide that with more drinking, more smoking. You know, drinking and smoking at the same time, because then it takes away, it numbs you. It makes you not think about anything, you know. Sleeping with another guy because last time it made you feel empty, so the next one's going to make you feel fulfilled, you know. But it's, like I said, every night I would have to come home or, you know, the place I was staying, and I didn't even have a bed. I put a bunch of my comforters on the floor, and I had some pillows, and I slept like that. And but to me, sin was worth it for sin. For some reason, you know, like you're okay with where you're at because you feel like you're getting, you know, this is what you always wanted as a church kid. Like, oh, I always wanted to live this life, but it wasn't all like that. So actually, we went to one of the clubs one night, and I met through the lady I was living with. I met this guy, and we kind of like hit it off, but not really. Like, we more, you know, it was a friends with benefits kind of situation, and I ended up getting pregnant, and I kind of like had a thought like, okay, maybe I am, you know. And this is after like maybe 2 months of living like this, and but at the time, God had already been dealing with me, like pulling on me, like, come on, this is enough, because I worked at Chick-fil-A, and someone had told me, God bless you, and I took that like offensively. And that's when I was like, whoa. I stepped back, I went to the back room, and I said, where am I? Like, I'm gone. This isn't me. Like, I'm offended because someone said, God bless you.
Wow.
You know, so that I realized how hard my heart had gotten and how desensitized I was. Like, I was just, it was crazy. So God had already been trying to deal with me in different things, and I started talking to my mom and sisters again, or my mom and my dad. I wasn't allowed, you know, to go over my parents' house because they knew the kind of life I was living. They knew what I was up to, and they weren't going to expose my sisters to that. So then that started weighing on me, like not being able to see my little sisters, you know, like that was rough. But they also wanted to show me, like, if you want to live that way, you're not going to have benefits, you know, of living or seeing your sisters. You're not going to have benefits of being able to come over our house because we won't welcome that spirit in our house. And so I understand that they are protecting them. And so me and my roommate, we started arguing a lot, just not getting along. And one day I pulled up to the house and all my stuff was just out on the curb. And I was like, what the heck? And she was like, yeah, you need to go. You can't stay here anymore. And so I was really mad, but at the same time I said, no, this is God. I said, no, it's okay. I'm going to take this because this is God. So I called my mom. I said, hey, Mom, I'm ready to move back home. And so she was like, okay, yeah. She's like, I'll come get the truck. And that's how you know your parents are loving, because they're like, no matter how much you mess up, like you come home and we'll help you,
Can't help it.
Yeah. And so I still hadn't told them that, like, I thought maybe I was, expecting. So I moved back home, and they're like, you don't have to go to church every single service, but you are going to go at least one service, one service Sunday and Wednesdays if you're not working. And so, of course, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go Sunday morning. Sunday nights, I want to go hang out. We went to, like, the zoo one night, just for an excuse to not go to church. And so, but you can't shake the conviction when you get into God's house. You can't shake it. And so I was ended up telling, my parents that I think I'm pregnant. And my dad was like, okay, well, it is what it is, kind of, like, we're going to help you no matter what. As long as you stay saved. And I had repented at that point. I had already went into the altar, and I repented because I saw that the worldly life wasn't all that it was meant to be, or all it said to be. Like, it wasn't like that. It was just heartbreaking, really. You're empty and broken inside the whole time. And so then he had mentioned that Stephen, because Stephen kept in contact, just to make sure I was okay, make sure I was still alive. He would email me because I didn't give him my phone number.
So Pastor had given permission for us to communicate through email.
Yeah. So
at that point, I had an email address for her. So.
Yeah. So we weren't, like, I wouldn't always message him, because I was kind of like, yeah, whatever, So I didn't want anything to do with church or anyone in church. And so, but when I came back, I had apologized. I don't know if I had apologized or what happened, but did my dad call you and tell you that I was back?
No, your dad, your mom was also keeping contact with me, so she was letting me know, like, it keeps going out. Yeah.
You just got to get up on that, man, boy.
She was letting me know.
She was
letting me know, your situation as it happened, and she said that you came back to service. So it was really cool. Whenever you came back to service, I actually I had the 3 days before the service that you came back, I just had decided to do a 3-day fast for you. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the fast is when you came back to church. So I thought that was like,
yeah, I didn't know. They hadn't told me.
So yeah, so that was really cool. Like that's the biggest point, like, where I've ever visually, like, for sure, like, seen, like, an answered prayer and fasting. So that was amazing. But she, Miss Renee had texted me and said, hey, guess who came to service? And so,
shout out to Renee one time.
Yeah. And
making it happen.
At that point, so a little bit after that, Pastor had called me and said, hey, they'd already pre-planned months in advance to come down to Florida to visit. Okay. And so she was going to come with them, but this is before she backslid and everything. And so, he said, hey, we're still coming down to Florida. I didn't know if you still wanted to talk to Venetia. I said, yes, yeah, definitely. I'm still, I still would like to talk to her. And he said, all right, just to let you know, she's pregnant. And I was like, oh. Like, we're on a phone call. I'm like, oh. And he's like, yes, so just wanted to let you be aware of that. If you still want to talk to her. And I was like, yes, still yes. And so they came down, they visited Florida. They came by, we went to St. Augustine, and it was a lot to process. But at the same time, I just thought of it like, we all make mistakes. Some are more visual than others, but we ended up getting married, and that child, I was there for, like, while we were dating, the whole time she was pregnant, I went through it with her with the pregnancy, right? It was long distance at first, but then when we got married, she was still 2 months pregnant at that point. And
no, I was like 7 months pregnant.
Well, no. We got married September 21st. She was born November 23rd.
You said I was 2 months pregnant, though.
Okay, a month is some change. A month is
technical.
some change.
You won't win, trust me.
A month
just say
change.
yes.
But anyways, so I was there for the whole thing. So it's
No, hold on. You said I'm 2 months pregnant. I'm not 2 months.
You were.
I was pregnant for 2 more months. Because I wasn't 2 months pregnant. I was 6 months pregnant.
They're right, bro.
Okay,
Yes, that's
sorry.
good. That's how you do it.
Listen,
Good.
I haven't had enough of this yet. Okay, that's my
Okay.
excuse. All right. I lost it. Oh yeah, so I was there for the the pregnancy, the birth, so just got a head start on the family. That's all.
That's it, bro. You know what I'm saying?
So from my point, like my dad was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and tell Steven, that you're pregnant. And I was like, okay. And then I'm thinking he's not gonna want to talk to me, because he's still saved, he's still living for God, he's still super I want to say like. He's never done anything. He never really sinned, with another girl or anything. So it's like, why are you going to want to ruin your testimony for me, being, so it was just kind of, you don't get a Jesus people wedding. You don't get, so it was kind of like, and everyone knows, like, oh, okay, you're married, you're newlyweds, but you're pregnant. Like, So I was like, he's not going to take that hit. But he did. And he was like, yeah, let's, and he had told me what happened in the world, is covered by God, or he said, like, you're forgiven by God, and so why wouldn't I forgive you? So that was probably one of the biggest times I ever seen God's forgiveness too. Is Him forgiving me, and so yeah, I came back to church, lived right. We started dating in June or July, almost a year exactly after meeting each other. Got engaged in August and got married in September.
Get out there quickly. Let's do it.
Yeah. And so
We were
then
on a timetable.
Yeah. And then we moved back, we moved to Florida.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's
I enjoy the redemptive story and all of it, right? Because everybody needs forgiveness, right? I know as well as anyone, and pastors always used to tell me, and I didn't really grasp it, right? That we have a real redemptive church. When I first came to the church, I looked at all the people around there, and I'm like, these are pretty cool people, but I kind of want to punch somebody in the face. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm like, dude, stop, man. You know what I mean? Like, come on. But I was struggling with a bunch of stuff, but pastor was like, no. You're thinking wrong. Mm-hmm. And he kind of adjust me up, but it's crazy how you're pregnant, and then you're fasting for her, and then God is already moving all these pieces. And you said, like, oh, we're not going to get a Jesus people wedding. People are going to know this kind of thing. And it's like, when you have to go through that, it's amazing how you see God's grace in all of that. Mm-hmm. Like you said, that's the first time you actually had an experience or actually really saw the forgiveness of God, like, in a way where it's like, whoa, And I applaud you, my man, because for you to take on that kind of responsibility and willing to take the hit like that, to me, in my opinion, it's not even a hit, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's more of a, let me show you what a Christian is. You know what I mean? Somebody who knows God and knows the grace of God and has been saved should know. And you said it right, man. If God forgave you, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. That's one of the key things that I love about Pastor Rosario. Like, I've let this man down. Lied to his face, literally. You know what I'm saying?
I've lived in his house and lied to his face.
Oh my God! Like,
Beat
okay,
that, no.
that's a one up right there. I ain't gone that far.
No, I'm not proud of that. No.
But I mean, it's like, here we are. We do this, and it's like, dang, So I just think that it's a beautiful picture of God's grace. You know what I mean? You guys as a couple. I remember when you guys came back, right? And we're helping you guys pack up the storage, and I'm thinking to myself, man, it's a pretty odd couple right here, you know what I mean? And I talked to Steve, and I'm like, my man is lacking in the street skill, you know what I mean? Like, but I like it because it's dope, you know what I mean? Because there's nothing cool about the streets, man. I'm just going to be straight. The streets will terrorize you, bro, and they will tear you down. They will. There's nothing pleasurous about it. Yeah, you'll be able to go out there and enjoy drinking and smoking like all the cool kids, but I'm gonna tell you straightforward, I did it my whole life. You know what I mean? Gang life, everything, respect, all that. And it's like, it only landed me in prison for years and years.
And if it's not a physical prison, it's a spiritual prison. Emotional and mental prison.
Talk about that, man. Come on, man. Like, you get you and half the people that are in there, they're okay with being in that kind of prison as long as they're able to live the way that they want to live. Right. And you mentioned that was so key, man, because it's so true. How we're willing to sleep on the floor on a couple of blankets and a pillow, right? And just to have the freedom to do stuff that we feel makes us feel better, or the type of. I think the world has a really profound way of pulling you, right? Like you see the dude chilling on the car, and you know what I'm saying, he's speaking a certain way, and he's got this going on, and it looks fly and it looks fresh, but there ain't nothing fresh about it, bro. Because in the end, you're left broken in your mind when you're by yourself. You're going through it, like your sister was saying. You were getting sick. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like. But the insanity of it, you want to become this person so bad. And then you start to live that lifestyle. You start to feel spiritually the weight of living that kind of lifestyle. Yeah. And it's like, dang.
You don't realize the covering that even a church gives you, being in church, Until
you're out from under it.
Yep.
And then somebody said, God bless you, and it made you angry.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, what? You went that far?
Yeah.
Like, but that's what sin can do to you. It'll harden you against God. You'll become bitter. Tell us about that.
Especially a church kid. You're around and exposed to Holy Spirit your whole life. You're exposed to good, amazing preaching, and especially in our fellowship, you're exposed to that. You're exposed to God's conviction. And so it's so easy to shake off each sermon. Like, oh, no, that's not for me. Oh, no. Oh, I'm not even paying attention. What did he say? And so it's so easy to kind of like guard your heart, and for the wrong reasons, build walls up around your heart because you're around so often. Right. And so then you start taking it for granted and then thinking, oh, no, it's nothing. Oh, yeah, it's probably going to happen next service too. Right. The Holy Spirit's probably going to be your next service. And then when you're not even like, oh, yeah, it's just church. It's just preaching. And so you take it for granted and you don't realize that it's there for your blessing, Yeah.
I didn't realize it until, man, I just want to be honest, probably maybe less than a year ago when I really just started getting it. And I've been saved for about 17 years. I got saved when I was in prison, but when I got out, it's a different ballgame out here. And, of course, all your old friends and all that look for you or whatever, and I had already got out the game, but that's another matter. It's just, you don't know what you have until you really, really fall into that trap and you really smoke the game royally. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to look your pastor in the face, and he's like, dang. And it hurt me, man, to see my pastor like that. Just, you know what I mean? Because he's more than, I consider pastor a friend, but to see this dude like watering up, that hurt me, man. I'm like, dang, this dude didn't do nothing to me but trust me, right? And it's like, dude, here I am trying to, you know what I mean? I'm tripping. So I finally got it together, but I realized something about how God's love that I couldn't see before because I was so jacked up in my mind, right? I didn't believe that God loved me even when I was there all those years in the potter's house. I just didn't believe it. I thought everybody looked at me like I was trash still. So I would put my pride on and be like, okay, you think I'm trash, but if you say something, I'm going to smash you. I know that much. But that's what I would think. But it was wrong. Like I was tripping. You know what I mean? Like, But it's amazing to see you guys the way you're at now and to see you guys do what you do. I mean, you're practically everywhere now, like doing things for the Lord, right? Yeah. My man, of course, he works, like a man's supposed to work. If you ain't got a job, get a job, man. Don't just lay around and do nothing. But it's just a blessing to see you guys do what you do. So now, after you guys get married, you guys come back, right? What was that like for you? Like to come back home?
After we got married?
After you got married, right? Because you guys came back from Florida. I remember y'all got here.
It was refreshing.
Yeah.
It was refreshing. At the same time, though, it's like, everyone knew me as Venetia teenager, so it was kind of like, okay, I'm a married woman now. So it was like being able to be myself and finding myself, but like still, I mean, I don't know how to put it into words. It was kind of like I was grown now, right. And so not being immature. I had to, come on, you can get yourself together. People. Hold on, sorry, let me think for a little bit because I don't want to just keep rambling and then say something dumb. Yeah, it was moving back was refreshing. It was very refreshing, but trying not to fall back into that same routine, as I was trying to say,
Because it's waiting here.
Yeah, because people know, they just know me for Venetia, and that was it. I was a spiritual person really when I lived here because I was a teenager messing around. And so it was trying not to fall back into the mentality of, oh, everyone's expecting me to be perfect again. And just realizing, no, I'm here to serve God, and I'm here to serve people too wherever I can, and I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not. And that's okay. If people want to think that I'm perfect, and they can think that I'm perfect, but I know I'm not, and I'm serving God for me and my family. And things will, spiritual ministries and everything will come as I serve God. So it was try not to fall back into that same mental routine.
There's a trap there. And you said the key thing. So when people expect you to be perfect, it's always good to remind them, what do you expect? I mean, I'm just like you. And a lot of the times that's what they need to hear, because if they see you and you're perfect, they're striving to be perfect. It's just also a trap for them. Right. They won't know how to accept their imperfections or their flaws until God gets them to a place where they're not imperfect anymore in those areas. It's called sanctification. But, I mean, it helps you stay sober-minded and not fall into that trap, right? At the same time, it gives everybody hope, because they see you guys come in and they're like, man, they're a perfect couple. And then if you ever hear that, be like, hold on a second. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
There's not a perfect person in the church.
Yeah.
Even my dad that sits behind that pulpit is not perfect. But there's one thing that makes us perfect, is that we're believing God and that we're trying our best to be the best versions of ourselves for not only ourselves, but everyone else around us. We fall short, but at the end of the day, we're here. You know what I'm saying? And we're helping each other out. We're all, man, I've noticed there's something about the Potter's house. Man, they got some crazy people up in there. If they're willing to let me go up in there, man, and chill, we're crazy. Like, and then he puts me on the sound, even worse. But I know that, God loves us, no matter where we're at. And so now you guys come back, and here you are. So what are you guys' thoughts, man? Like, now that you guys are together, you said that you had to come back, as a married woman. I remember when you first came back, you started coming to my house. Of course, Jamie started doing your nails or whatnot. But it was always, I noticed something very different about you when you came through. You weren't, how can I put it? Because I encounter a lot of people. Let me say this carefully. I don't want to get in trouble. I encounter a lot of people that are, I'm just going to say it, rude. They're just rude people. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the time it's because they're going through stuff and I just don't understand it. So I just forgive. But you weren't, man. You came into the house. You're like, hey, what's up, Mr. Ray? And you would talk to me like I was normal. And that's rare, believe it or not. Because people look at me like I'm crazy a lot of the time. And you know what? That's okay with me too, I guess, But you were like, hey, what's up, man? And I was like, it kind of threw me for a loop at first. I was like, genuine. It's what I got when you first came through. And I was telling my wife, man, she's so genuine. And I love that. I love that she can come around and she'd be like, hey, Mr. Ray, what's up, what's up, what's up? And not act weird when she come around me, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's awesome, bro. I love that. And I want you to know that that's what you brought into the house every time you came here. Genuine, you know what I mean? And I wanted Jamie to have that. Because I'm in a place right now where I'm teaching her to be like, okay, I know I was strict at you on first, but I'm trying to push you out the door. And she's like, no, I don't want to go, because she's scared now, right? And I'm like, dang, man, I wish I would have did things differently. But now I'm starting to push her out the door, and it's hard. But I know that every time you came through, you were genuine. I just want you to know that I know you ain't perfect. And I don't ever expect you to be, any of you, anyone in here. We got Ed in the back. We got Jordan in the back. I don't expect anyone to be perfect. But what I do expect, man, is that, we accept one another where we're at, and we love each other like brothers and sisters in Christ. Because I long for that, right? I think that it's very important. But I think that when you came into the house, you brought that genuineness in here. And it was very refreshing. And I hope that you take that everywhere that you go. You know what I mean? No matter who's there, just be like, hey, man, what's up? Hey, what's up? What's up? You have a very, very precious gift there. And I'm grateful, man, that you are in a way, 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 way better place than you were before. I mean, you are definitely in a place. Not perfect, but we're all being worked on. But I just want you to know, man, that I've noticed it, and you are a tremendous blessing to Jamie, more than you know. And I'm grateful for it, man, and more times to come. So I got a question for you, and it might be kind of hard.
Okay.
But I like hard questions because Pastor tells me that I'm not supposed to ask pastors hard questions when they come in here, right? But I always ask the hard question. So, and it's really not hard. Look, we got teens, we got people going through it out there. We have about 300 subscribers plus, so there's about 300 people, right? If there was something that you would like to say to anyone that's out there, what would it be? Like if you just had to say something to all these people, if they were standing before you right now, and you had an opportunity, what would you say?
Don't live for the high life. Live the Christian life, because it's a better outcome, and it's well, there's a word that I'm looking for.
It's all right. We got time.
It's it's worth it, and you might face troubles and hard times, but with prayer, Jesus brings you out of those times. And it might be really, really rough right now. And if you're trying to serve God, if you're not serving God, why? Like, why? You should just be. It's pretty simple to serve God. It's pretty simple, And I think people make it a little more complicated than it needs to be. Yeah. And so, if you're not serving God, why not? And if you're having a hard time, why are you having a hard time? Is it because you're pulling away, or and not giving into your convictions? Not giving into, but you're not realizing that that's conviction, and you're not fighting those. You're saying, God, you're trying to work in me, and I'm gonna surrender. Surrender and live for God, because man, the times are crazy, and I get it's hard, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it.
Times are getting hard. There's an aggressive spirit right now after kids, especially teens. There's something hardcore going on right now in the spiritual realm, no doubt, man. Our generation is being attacked by a bunch of things all at once. If there were ever a time that we were alive where we can say that Jesus is coming back, it's now, right? So, look, I'm going to bang regardless. You know what I mean? I'm going to be here. Not perfect, but I am going down swinging. And I just praise God, man, because you know what? We need people like that. I thank Venetia for coming in and giving her testimony about her life and about the things that she's been through. If this podcast segment blessed you in any kind of way, drop a comment below, man. Get in there one time. If you never heard the podcast, you're here. I tap the subscribe button, man. Every time we put content down, you can get some, man. Look, I don't care about the subscribers or anything like that. I mean, I do. I don't want to seem like I don't care about you guys, but we're not here for that. We're here to bring a message of hope. We're here to make a difference in your life, and if our testimonies can help that, then that's a blessing. That's what we're here for. I could care less about checks or anything like that, man. We're here to live for God. And she said that was one of the main things of this podcast, man, about being perfect. We're not perfect, man. I struggle with things even earlier today. You know what I'm saying? I'm going out to go do something, and guess what, man? I this guy just, I'm like, what? Turn this car around. And it's like, stop, dude. You know what I mean? It's not you anymore. So there's always something. But, man, put up a good fight. And like Venetia said, it's worth it. Live for God. There's nothing in the world that's pleasurous enough for you to be miserable over. And you will be left miserable and empty. I guarantee you, man. I guarantee you. Trust me. I know as well. I've did it my whole life, man. I was involved with people that were out of their minds, crazy. But by the grace of God, I'm sitting here saved with a wonderful couple. They're serving God. So what do y'all got? What are y'all gonna do, man? Are y'all like gonna go do something for God or what? What's going on? Like,
we'll see. Whenever the time comes,
We're just here to serve.
Yeah, here to serve for right now.
Wherever that goes.
But I do have something I should have added back when it came to the point where we were engaged. Mm-hmm. We got engaged in August, and I had already had an internship because I was in college still, and I was computers, and I had already had an internship on base in the soldier service center or something like that. And it was a really good internship, and I had connections. So there was a guy who actually used to go to our church, and he gave me a card. He said, "This is my boss." And it was like he was high ranking in the 3rd Corps building. Like he was up there. He said, whenever you need something, you go to him. And so I had it set up. I had my career planned out, you know, because I was going to work on base, on this internship. I was going to move around from there, you know, and like make good money. And I was either going to do that, or my dad said, or you can get married you know, you guys can go and get married right away, or you can wait. And so, man, it was one of the toughest decisions, because it was like, I loved him and I wanted to get married, but it's like, okay, or do I want to wait like 3 months to still just be engaged, a few months, do my internship, and then take from my internship and my degree and go to Florida, you know? But then God convicted me, like, really, you're going to choose to go, where would you be if you went and did that internship? Are you going to still serve God, or are you going to get caught up into the same things? And so I let go of that. But even moving back here, I thought about that a few times, like, man, like I could have had a career, you know, I could have, and not, you know, I could have had money, I could have had cars, you know, like that always wants to come back to you. And I was like, no, that's God. God has me where he wants me. And he ended up bringing up, someone offered to put me into real estate school. Just, okay, what do you think about this? Paid for it full. And I'm in real estate school from, you know, and so God always, he'll have his plan and a backup plan in case you mess up his first plan, you know? So I wanted to say that too, like, yeah, careers are great, and you might have a career set out, but where's that career going to take you? Come on. Is it going to take you out of the will of God? So I just wanted to put that in there.
I know that, speaking to somebody, for real, because you have, the devil was waiting on you. Mm-hmm. I promise you that.
Oh, yeah.
And God knew it.
Especially on base.
On base?
Yeah.
Man, them soldiers
people
over
don't
there
know.
were like...
I said people don't know, but the soldiers are probably the craziest people.
They're nuts. Trust me, I know. I'm good friends with about 5 of them. And, yeah, they tell me stories, man. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the devil was waiting on you, but you made the right choice. Let me tell you guys, not all money's good money.
No.
Trust me. Man, I before I got saved, I was buying quarter keys at a time. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to go over a quarter key because I didn't want to get caught with more than a quarter of a key, because I know the quarter of a key came with a certain amount of time. Anyway, but I was making a lot of money.
Oh.
Huh? A quarter of a kilo.
Oh, I was like, what is that?
Oh, you did? I expected you to know. My mind's like, a quarter of a kilo. Wow, good job.
I went to public school.
I mean, not good, but I'm sorry.
I said same, but I did go to public school.
Okay, cool. So I was buying quarter keys at a time. We called them 9 packs because they're 9 ounces in a key. So anyway, I was making lots of money, but money isn't everything. You know what I mean? What makes everything is serving God. What makes everything is when you have somebody lying next to you when you wake up that you can rely on, that you know that whatever you're going to go through, they're going to be right there with you, man. When I wake up in the morning, I know I got a ride or die right next to me, man. There's no way around it. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? I'm a ride or die. You know what I mean? So they're married now. She made the right decisions. Now she got her a good husband. When she wakes up in the morning.
A great husband.
A great husband. You know what I'm saying? That at the end of the day, no matter what happens, he's going to be there. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We all need that. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, he knows that she's going to be there. Mm-hmm. You know what? The enemy attacks marriages, man. He tries to get us to do stupid stuff, man. But I just want to encourage you, man, that if you're out there and you're considering taking an opportunity, be careful. You need to weigh it out. You need to make sure whether you're ready or not. You need to make sure, check out your motives. There's a lot of things that go into it. Don't just make a decision and then say you prayed about it.
And not every open door is God opening that door.
Come on.
Sometimes you force the door open, or it might just be open. God might be trying to test you. Are you going to take it? You know?
Don't get it twisted. The devil opens doors too.
Oh, yeah,
I heard about that. I thought it was hilarious. So this illustration was this man, he's been trying to lose weight, right? So every morning he would go to a Krispy Kreme for the office, and buy like 2 dozen donuts. Mm-hmm. So he stopped doing that because he was trying to lose weight. He was trying to be good. So one morning he is craving these donuts, and he said, okay, if it's God's will for me to get donuts today, the parking spot right at the front door is going to be open for me. That will be the sign that it's God's will. What? And sure enough, after going around the building 30 times, that spot opened up.
You see? I'm sorry, I'm over here hitting the mic. You see what I'm saying, though?
Sometimes we force it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll wait. We'll make a way, and then we'll say that God did it.
God willed it. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good illustration. It's funny. Not all money's good money, man. So think about it, guys, man. This is the Real Light Podcast. If you got blessed, God bless you, Venetia. Thank you for coming in, my man. Thank you for coming in. So when are we going to get yours, man? Yeah? Okay. So right after this, we're going to get with you, and we're going to set a date. Come on through. We love you guys, man. God bless you. Stay standing.